You open your phone for no reason at all. 10 seconds pass. Nothing happened. You do it again. And somewhere in your skull, a 200,000-year-old circuit just fired. The same one that once sent your ancestors scanning a horizon for movement. You think you are checking notifications. You are actually hunting. Not for food. Not anymore. But the machinery never got the memo. Your brain was not built for a world of infinite screens and instant delivery. It was built for a world where finding anything worth having took effort, patience, and risk. And that world shaped you far more deeply than you realize. Every scroll, every search, every late-night shopping spree is your ancestors' foraging behavior, replayed on a stage they never could have imagined. What if the itch you feel to check one more tab isn't a modern glitch at all? What if it's the oldest instinct you have, just wearing new clothes? To understand this, you have to go back. Not centuries, hundreds of thousands of years. For most of human history, finding food was not guaranteed. It was uncertain, effortful, and unevenly rewarded. Anthropologist Kristen Hawkes spent years studying the Hadza, a hunter-gatherer community in Tanzania, and found that their foraging decisions followed strikingly consistent patterns. People did not wander randomly. They weighed the odds. A patch of berries nearby but small. A herd of animals farther off but far more valuable. Every decision was a bet, made with incomplete information under the constant pressure of hunger. This is the essence of what scientists call optimal foraging theory. It says that animals, including humans, evolved to balance effort against reward, constantly asking an unspoken question. Is it worth it to keep looking here, or should I move on? Here's the part that should stop you. That exact calculation is still running in your head right now. Except the patch is no longer a berry bush. It's a feed, a search results page, a shopping site with 40 more items to scroll through. You just don't call it foraging. You call it browsing. Researcher Peter Paroli, working at Xerox PARC in the early 2000s, noticed something strange while studying how people search for information online. Their behavior looked almost identical to animals foraging for food. People would stay on a page as long as it seemed to be yielding useful information, then abandon it the moment the information sent grew weak, jumping to the next link like an animal leaving a depleted berry patch for greener ground. He called it information foraging theory. And it wasn't a metaphor. It was the same cognitive machinery, repurposed. Think about what that means. When you're deep in a scroll, jumping from one video to the next, one product to the next, one headline to the next, you are not being lazy or unfocused. You are running an ancient survival algorithm at maximum speed, except the landscape has changed and the food never runs out. That's the twist. And it's a strange one. In the ancestral environment, foraging had a natural stopping point. Berries ran out. Animals fled. Effort became too costly relative to the reward, and your ancestors moved on, rested, and conserved energy for the next attempt. Scarcity built in its own off switch. Modern platforms removed the off switch entirely. Neuroscientist Kent Berridge, in decades of research on the brain's reward circuitry, drew a critical distinction between wanting and liking. Wanting is driven largely by dopamine, and it is not actually a pleasure signal. It is an anticipation signal, a pull toward possibility. Liking is the payoff itself, running on a separate, quieter system. Berridge's work showed that these two systems can become mismatched. You can want something intensely without liking it much at all once you get it. This is exactly what an infinite scroll exploits. Each swipe promises a possible reward, an interesting post, a better deal, a satisfying answer. Your dopamine system fires on the possibility, not the outcome, so you keep going. Not because each piece of content is deeply satisfying, but because the system driving you was never built to recognize enough. It was built for an environment where enough was decided by nature, not by an algorithm engineered to remove every natural stopping cue. Your ancestors' hunt had an ending. Yours doesn't. unless you supply the ending yourself. And this pattern isn't limited to your phone. Watch how you shop. Notice how a 2-minute errand for one item can spiral into 40 minutes of comparing, clicking, and second-guessing. That's not indecision. That's risk assessment. The same instinct that once helped a forager decide whether to chase a fast, high-value animal or stick with slower, more reliable plants. Economist and anthropologist Elizabeth Cashton documented how foragers constantly adjust their risk tolerance based on how desperate their circumstances are. When resources are scarce, people take bigger gambles. When resources are abundant, they play it safe. Notice what happens when you're bored versus when you're anxious. Boredom nudges you toward comparing, more scrolling, more options. Stress nudges you toward quick, safe choices. The online equivalent of grabbing the reliable plant instead of chasing the risky animal. You didn't learn this behavior. You inherited it. Even your social behavior carries the same fingerprint. Ancient foraging wasn't only about food. It was about information. Who found water this season? Which paths were dangerous? Which group had extra resources to trade? Sharing information mattered as much as sharing meat. Gossip, in the deepest sense, was survival intelligence passed hand to hand. Now look at what you actually do with a screen. You don't just consume information, you forward it. You comment on it. You check who liked what, who said what, who's doing better than you this week. That's not vanity. That's the same social information foraging your ancestors depended on to know where they stood in the group and whether their alliances were secure. Here is the part that reframes everything you've just heard. You are not addicted to your phone. Not really. You are running a hunting and gathering program that has no environment left to hunt in, so it keeps searching anyway. The behavior isn't broken. The habitat is. That distinction changes how you might think about it. Willpower was never really the variable your ancestors relied on to stop foraging. The environment did that work for them. Scarcity forced rest. Effort forced pause. The absence of infinite abundance built in a natural rhythm your body still expects, even in a world that no longer provides it. So when you feel the pull to check one more thing, open one more tab, scroll one more minute, you're not failing at self-control. You're standing in a landscape engineered to never run dry, using instincts built for a landscape that always did. What would it look like to build your own scarcity back in? Not through guilt and not through white-knuckle restriction, but by recognizing the pattern for what it is. A closed tab is a depleted berry patch. A phone left in another room is a horizon with nothing left to scan. You are not weak for wanting to check again. You are, in a very real sense, still hunting. Tonight, when your hand drifts toward your phone for the 5th time in an hour, notice it. Not with shame. With recognition. That's not a modern flaw in you. That's 200,000 years of instinct, doing exactly what it was built to do in a world that forgot to give it an ending. You open your phone for no reason at all. 10 seconds pass. Nothing happened. And for the first time, you understand why you're about to do it again. If your brain just recognized itself in this, you're going to want to see the next one too. Subscribe, and next time you catch yourself hunting for no reason, you'll know exactly why.